Hello everyone, and welcome to the 4th edition of Berytech Online Meetups. Berytech Online Meetups are powered by GIST, an initiative by the US State of Department to enrich and build vast networks between innovators, scientists, academia, entrepreneurs, private sector, and policymakers. Today, we are tackling the fourth and final pillar of food security, the availability of food supplies in MENA. We have with us Naila Malouf, the head of Agri-Grow Nursery at Robinson Agri. We have Suha Nasser, the Agri-Tech specialist at Berytech. We have Irene Bughdadi from Chemonics Egypt, our partner for We4f. We will tell you more about the We4f programs throughout this evening. And we have, last but definitely not least, Simon Rank from We4f Program. Simon is the head of M&E, GIS, and VAM departments. We will know more about these departments and what We4f Program is doing in Lebanon throughout this evening. First of all, I want to ask our esteemed panelists to turn on your microphones and cameras.
So my microphone works, but I cannot switch on my camera.
So please try now.
Still blocking. No, here we are.
Amazing. Welcome on board. We have around 90 minutes throughout this online meetup, and we will kick off with a brief presentation by Suha Nasser about the food security, what is the availability pillar of food security, and what have been done in MENA so far. And then we will have a short presentation by Ms. Malouf about Robinson Agri and the Agri-Grow Nursery, the project that Robinson Agri is leading on developing the local supply chains for our agri-food sector. And then we will have a panel discussion to further discuss and highlight the opportunities for entrepreneurs who are kicking off their entrepreneurial journey and for SMEs that are looking to venture more into technology intensive solutions and expand their operations and their bottom line in terms of chiffre d'affaires or business numbers overall. Without further ado, we will kick off with Suha. Suha, if you can please share your screen and kick off your intro.
Hello, everybody. I'm trying to share my screen. Just 1 second to make sure Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening. Exactly as I started my first, let's say, session with this series, I will end it with the same question. So how we feed 9 billion people by 2050? Because if this question can highlight any fear related to food security, it is really highlighting primarily the fear of not having available sufficient food for the population expected in 30 years. For most of history, whenever we have needed to produce more food, we have simply cut down forests or plowed grasslands to make more farms. But now we cannot afford at global level to increase the food production through agricultural expansion. So what will happen? By 2050, the world's population will likely increase by more than 35%. To feed this population, crops production need to double, and the food production in general need to increase by 56%. And if you ask me why we need to double this crop production for 35% increase in population, it is exactly because the production should outpace the population growth, one, and the developing country will afford to eat more meat. And 1 kilogram of meat needs, in average, depending on the meat type, but in average, it will need 3 kilograms of crops to be produced. So we need to double our production to give 56% increase in the overall production of food. Well, after this global view, let's go back to the initial definition. Food security, as per the World Food Summit, as per the World Food Summit, exists when all people at all time have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preference for an active and healthy life. And to ensure this food security, we must look at the general picture of the 4 pillars now that we are closing our series. First, we have to make sure that the food is sufficiently available. If it is available, we have to make it accessible physically by reaching even the food deserts, and economically to all people, as we discussed in our previous session. Then we have to look at the good utilization of food in terms of the suitable calorific consumption, the food safety, and the right processing and storage of food. When all these pillars are present already, the final step is to ensure their stability. So the stability of the food supply, the stability of access to food, and the stability of utilization. In this way, we can say that the food security is finally established and sustained. But the MENA region that used to be considered as having an adequate food supply is suffering lately. First of all, the MENA is the largest importer of food in the world, accounting to nearly 1/3 of the global cereal imports. And lately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the protection measures taken by governments are having critical impact on the food supply chain and the availability of food for people. And due to the political instability in the region, Syria, Yemen, Sudan, in addition to Afghanistan, are among the top 10 countries in the world with the worst food crisis in 2019 by number of people affected, with 40 million people affected in total. And if we want to look at Lebanon, unfortunately, after the Beirut port blast destroyed 15,000 metric tons of wheat, as well as Lebanon's main grain silos. And in a country that relies hugely on imported food, the port destruction is affecting the food supply and the food availability. And even before the explosion, we can still remember how many times we saw this long line in front of bakeries during the last year, let's say, because we knew that the bakeries will close or will not be able to supply the market with the needed bread. And don't focus only on bread and wheat. A lot of other products we used to find in our markets are now unavailable because of the economic crisis and the loss of the capacity to import these products. Another way of making some foods unavailable to people is wasting it by other people. If we want to look at the MENA region food waste, we can see that we waste 19% of our available food, and 1/3 of this loss occurs during consumption. But the remaining 2/3 of this waste are lost all along the supply chain, from production till distribution. So due to our practices since production till distribution, we are losing around 12.5% of our food that must be available to people in the best case scenario. Thinking about all these challenges, we started hearing 1 year ago, especially in Lebanon, about the importance of the agriculture and the industrial sectors in maintaining the food security of the country. These present sectors are able to produce, to continue doing business as usual, or even to scale a little bit up their production, but they will not be able to make a breakthrough alone. To maintain the food security needed level for our country, we need to make these two sectors as smart, as efficient, and as productive as possible. We need to use our land smartly. We need to improve our agricultural productivity. We need to reduce even our water consumption through smart irrigation, maybe. We need to make a variety of products available locally, and we highly need to become as efficient as possible in all kinds of productions. And to do so, we need to force this fusion between the technical innovation and the traditional agri-food sector. And this is exactly where the tech minds need to meet the agri-food masters as one innovative task force. So availability of food is very dependable on the way we use our limited arable lands, the way we produce more in less space, the way we produce better products in with less production waste, and the way we distribute all products in the most efficient methods. And all of the efforts we make will have definitely an impact on making the product more accessible and affordable, and make it more nutritious and safer. So why not using technologies to make this happen? Why not creating better ways to, let's say, substitute the imported food and save a big amount of import expenses we pay every year? Or use maybe IoT to improve productivity through better monitoring and control of production? Why not automating activities that can help in scaling up small productions? And I can give an endless list of such examples. I already gave a lot of them in our previous sessions. So wrapping up now, I would like to insist that yes, we have till now a traditional sector. We rely on import to eat, and we are not in the best situation to import anymore. But all of this is nothing but an opportunity to start new businesses, relying on IoT, big data, AI, drones, robotics, platforms, applications, and every kind of technology to improve and optimize and recreate our food production through an infinity of innovative technologies and business models. This is the right time to think how and what we can mix together to solve a problem, because we have a lot of problems to solve. And by solving these problems, and making our food more available, more accessible, and well utilized in a stable way, we will help in preventing food insecurity in our country and our region. And we will be eventually collaborating to the global effort of food security on the long run. Now, please join me and Berytech in this unstoppable work of creating the change we would like to see in the agri-food sector for a better food secure future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Soha, for the well-informed introduction and brief about the importance of private sector and businesses in making the social impact of creating food supply chains and food production capabilities that will feed our ever-growing population and ever becoming, or let's just say that we are losing our purchasing power, and we will need cheap access to food. Now we will have a look at one of the leading and pioneering Lebanese businesses in the agri-food space that are doing the work and taking the actions to help create such local supply chains and local sources for the agri-food sector in Lebanon. We have with us Ms. Naila Malouf from Robinson Agri that will tell us, she will tell us more about Agri-Grow Nursery and the efforts that they are doing to provide food supplies.
Hello.
Naila, the floor is yours. Please feel free to share your screen.
Yes. Do you see it?
Yes, we're seeing the PowerPoint. If you can
I'm
just
trying
press on
to
that thing.
go on to the slide.
Yes, and we're live.
Okay. So first, it's a pleasure for me to participate in this important meeting about food security in MENA area. And I would like to share with you how we were able to collaborate in this field through our Nursery Agri-Group. First, let's talk a little bit about how Agri-Grow started. So if you go back to the year 2000, we witnessed a high tendency towards professional nurseries worldwide. The growers were more aware about the importance of using a good quality seedling with a healthy root system in order to ensure a better start of their crops and to secure their harvest. Accordingly, Robinson Agri decided to install its first nursery in Mastita, and we were growing normal vegetable seedlings of all the crops. Then we had another issue to face. It was the methyl bromide banning. So many crops were threatened, and the growers were facing a huge risk of losing their whole fruits at the harvest time. The most vulnerable type were the watermelon and eggplant, because when they are infected, the watermelon vines were dying suddenly a few days before harvesting them, and the eggplant plants were not able to supply enough nutrients for their fruits to develop. So we started looking for all available alternatives, and we found that the most common one and adopted one in Europe was grafting. The grafting technique by itself, so it was already known in Lebanon, and it was applied mainly for watermelon grafting. They were using the local rootstock, but it was not totally protecting their crops, and it was affecting the taste of the fruits. However, based on all the positive results that were recorded in Europe for the use of grafted plants, we took the decision to implement a grafting nursery in Lebanon that will be applying the same European technology and will be following their standards. This is how Agri-Grow Nursery was launched. It consisted of a partnership between Robinson Agri and Plantize. It was formerly known as Grow Group. It's a group of Dutch nurseries that are spread all over the globe. So Agri-Grow Nursery was installed over an area of 15,000 square meters in Kubba Batroun region. So here I'm sharing with you some of the picture how the nursery was installed. So we adapted the European high-tech standards to our local conditions. So we installed some sections with totally artificial conditions in order to protect our seedlings, like the germination room, the healing rooms. So you can see it, it's inside if you can see it on the picture, it's inside the green building. And we took advantage of our sunny weather in order for the rest of the greenhouses, let's say, in order to provide the growers with the real high quality tough plants ready to be transplanted to their soil. Here I'm showing you some picture of the nursery from inside. So we believe that being a member of an international nurseries network, Agri-Grow will have the access to the needed support and to the latest technologies and techniques in the nursery field. So apart from growing grafted and non-grafted plants, Agri-Grow also focused on developing the plantation of many of our local crops like the local oregano, local rocket, local parsley, and we are currently propagating some local olive varieties. All of these because we believe that we believe in the importance of preserving our endemic varieties. Now, if we go back to our main subject for today related to the food security and availability and the participation of the nursery and the agricultural companies towards securing food, important roles are fulfilled. On national level, securing the food means to respect the 4 pillars of stability, utilization, access, and availability. In our dietary, the requirement of cereals cannot be provided only by our own local production due to lack of available lands. But we need to ensure sufficient amount of fresh vegetables. They need to be secured to reach a healthy dietary intake. As Agri-Grow, we think that providing healthy plant to the growers plays a major role in securing their crops and their harvest and in securing the food supply. At nursery level, we are trying to select the suitable raw materials. So the choice of the potting soil is really important in terms of its quality, its texture, its cleanliness, the added fertilizers in it. The substrate used for plants production should be carefully selected as it will consist the media in which the root system will develop. And the root system and the plant's development in early stages is very important for the growth of the plant and for its productivity afterwards. Also, the choice of vegetable seedling is really important. High standard varieties should be used. They should be certified as free from any disease. The seed by itself can be the host of real many diseases that are transmitted from one country to another. So while importing the seeds, if they are not clean, you might be entering many diseases to your country that are not yet there. So it might be threatening the crop production on national level. That's why highly certified seeds are highly recommended. Also, we can use the hybrid varieties, which will improve the quality and the productivity of the crops. Here, I need to explain something. We mean by hybrid seeds, the one resulting from the natural crossing between the varieties and not the one that are genetically modified. If you take a look at the picture I shared here, you can see a uniform cucumber greenhouse, which will be giving us high quality fruits and will fulfill our requirements. For the time being, we are obliged to import those raw materials from renowned European sources. But we are working hardly on finding local substitute to be used. As substrate, we are continuously trying, let's say, the normal local compost to test its efficiency on nursery level. So far, the main limiting factors are related to its hygiene and to seeds reaction upon sowing. So once we will be able to solve those two issues, we will be able to shift to our local made compost, let's say. Regarding the seeds, also many trials are conducted with our Lebanese universities that are in Lebanon, I mean, on locally produced hybrid seeds. Hopefully, positive results will be achieved soon. Also, at nursery level, implementing strict hygiene measures are really important, are drastic for the nursery in order to make sure that all the plants are clean and free from diseases. On another note, the water used at the nursery is continuously monitored and periodically tested, microbiologically, I mean, to guarantee its cleanliness before irrigating our plants. Also, respecting the growing cycle of each crop, because the growing cycles, they vary from between the period of the year. So respecting them will help us to guarantee the high standards quality of delivering the good quality plants, let's say. And advising the grower about the most suitable plantation period and delivering the plants on time. This will optimize their harvest. It will secure the production stability and the product's availability, and it will make it accessible for the end consumer. This is everything related at nursery level. At company level, as Robinson Agri, we have a major role to play also in food security. So for us, securing food supply, it means that being continuously updated about all the new diseases outbreaks that are occurring abroad and continuously taking the suitable measures to face them. Also, it means that we have the access to the most recent varieties that might provide higher yields as well as better resistances. Testing those new varieties under our local conditions in order to select the best performing one, and providing a continuous follow-up for the growers in order to update them, to back up the growers in their field and to optimize their production. Although the food security was one of the main targets of Agri-Grow and Robinson Agri, however, other challenges arose along with the economical crisis we are going through currently in Lebanon, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic situation. Our main target became how to help the small, medium, and big growers surviving during this tough crisis in order to secure the food value chain. If any of its part is lost, the whole chain will be affected. So we believe that the first step to be achieved for food security is to support the plant production process. So we need to start since the beginning. Once we provide the plants, we can continue with the whole cycle. Therefore, as Robinson Agri, our priority was to secure all the needed materials to keep our nursery operating, despite all the capital control measures that were imposed. We also believe in the cooperation between different stakeholders to overcome the crisis. That's why Robinson Agri got in contact with many of the NGOs that are operating in Lebanon and that are active in the agricultural field in order to find the best possible solution to help the growers surviving this tough period. So our cooperation consisted of distributing seeds, seedlings, and agri-related materials to the growers based on their needs. We cooperated and we are still cooperating with the FAO and the World Food Bank on the distribution of seeds, seedlings, and agri-related materials to different growers, with Street on providing the required seedlings for small growers, yet helping them surviving during this period, with Nusaned and Land O'Lakes on helping the individuals planting their backyards and securing part of their crops for the coming period. With CWB, we cooperated on 2 different projects, aiming to supply to small growers a free of charge seedlings, one for the Knights of Malta and the other for Street. And also we are cooperating with local municipalities in order to motivate them or to help them distribute plants for individuals to be planted in their backyard for their self-sufficiency in terms of vegetables. To conclude, I would like to share one final thought with you. If food security is highly important, then food safety is mandatory. At our level, we are monitoring the quality of all the inputs we are using at the nursery for plants production, from the potting soil we are using to the seeds, to the water, and we are keeping all the necessary records throughout the growing cycle for accurate traceability. Furthermore, we are challenging all our growers to be more careful about the water they are using, about their soil, about the added fertilizers, the pesticides they are applying, and to perform periodic tests. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and I will be glad answering your question at the end of this session.
Thank you, Naila. Thank you for the amazing presentation and all the efforts that you are doing at Robinson Agri. I will please ask you to stop sharing your screen.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now, before we kick off our panel discussions, please use the link in the chat to pose any questions that you want to address to Soha or Naila. We can see already some of the questions are posted on the Slido channel. Let me share my screen to highlight them. So the first question, how can we get your products? I believe it's for you, Naila. So how can people get the products of Robinson Agri, or specifically, I think they were asking about the plants. Yes.
Yes. So the product, as I already said, our nursery is located in Batoun, in Kuba. So the products can be get from the nursery. As for everything related to other products of our company, Robinson Agri, we have the back office is in Mastita, and we have branches in South, in Beka, and in North.
Thank you. I think the next one is for Soha. So what are the supports that Berytech provide for agricultural businesses?
Actually, Berytech, by definition, it's an ecosystem for entrepreneurs. So our main focus is in taking the idea from the ideation phase till the, let's say, making it a successful business. Let me focus on the Act Smart program, where Agri-Tech is part. The Agri-Tech program help any entrepreneur, anyone who has any idea working in technology, let's say agriculture, all kind of innovative ideas. anyone who has this kind of ideas is welcome to apply to our program, the Agri-Tech program, to transfer this idea from being only an idea or prototype even to become a whole business through our accelerator, where he can validate his idea, accelerate it, and create his MVP, and finally incubate it to become a real business.
Thank you. I will second all what you have said about Agri-Tech. We also have other programs or entities that could support agricultural businesses within our Berytech family. We have Code, the cluster for agri-businesses, and actually the COO of Robinson Agri is currently chairing the board of Code. So Code is for all the already established small, medium, and big enterprises in Lebanon that are looking to find new innovations and work on new inspiring projects such as the Agri-Grow of Robinson Agri to enhance their business figures, reach new territories, export, or grow their bottom line in any way or form. We also have DED, the Lebanese Enterprise Development Project that offers tailored services to companies looking to either export or to substitute any imported goods. We have as well We4f. We will discuss more the We4f MENA operations with our Egyptian partner Chemonix, presented by Alina throughout the discussions. So how are you handling the dollar rate? I believe this is for you, Naila. So yes, tell us, how is the fluctuation of the exchange rate affecting your operation and your offering to your clients in terms of pricing?
Yes. So the dollar rate is affecting everything that is imported, mainly the cotton soil we receive. So we are dividing, let's say, our cost. We are separating all the part of the cost that's settled in Lebanese lira, and we are dividing it. Let's say we separate the part that is paid in dollar and the one that is paid in lira, and accordingly we are doing our costing. So it's not completely, let's say, linked to the dollar rate, but we are dividing it. Now we are trying to go on with the supported products. We are working on having the supported products from the ministry in order to be able to keep on going.
Thank you. So we will kick off our panel discussions. First, I will leave the floor for Simon to introduce briefly the work of World Food Program in Lebanon and the functions of the departments that he's heading currently.
Good evening, and thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be here. My colleagues who were already part of the Berytech sessions the last few weeks told so much about that, and I'm really thrilled to be here tonight. So my name is Simon Rank. I'm leading the MENA Monitoring, Evaluation, and Vulnerability Analysis and Mapping Unit here at the World Food Program in Lebanon. What does the World Food Program? We are part of the humanitarian community to support vulnerable households, Lebanese, but also Syrian refugees here in Lebanon with assistance, food assistance more specifically. And what type of assistance are we talking about? It is actually cash contributions given to households which are being targeted through different systems and allowing them to access food with the respective assistance. So this is where the VAM team comes in, which I'm representing here, and also part of the discussion on food availability. So we work a lot on the aspect of targeting. Who should be assisted? Where are these people located, for which reasons, and how many should we be assisting as the World Food Program as part of the wider UN, but also NGO community, which are our key partners. WFP works also very closely with the government of Lebanon and in areas, for example, with the Ministry of Agriculture through the team, our livelihoods team, but also myself when it comes to analyzing the situation with the Ministry of Social Affairs. But now the topic today is about food availability. And in my function now, what I want to speak about is we also analyze, we monitor the situation. We monitor prices, for example, for our assistance. We monitor what are the available food items in stores with which we also work, because that's a very specific and collaboration we have as the World Food Program is with contracted shops throughout the entire country roughly 450 shops, retailers, slightly larger, where beneficiaries, Lebanese, but also Syrians can come and basically redeem the money they receive on a monthly basis. So through that system, we also have to see like how is the situation in terms of supply, how is the situation in terms of prices, and here regularly we provide, we analyze the information. Some of you, and I will share the link, or you can request it later. You have price information which is available, so you can use that data to analyze yourself if you're interested in how the situation have evolved up down to the government or even district level. We also have information from the traders to explain us how they see the situation. And just to give you an idea also on how we were very concerned when the blast hit the country beginning of August, we obviously wanted to immediately know, so what does it mean for the country? So as we've seen, yes, 15,000 metric tons were destroyed of wheat. That was a huge shock. But at the same time, what we've learned over the last weeks afterwards is that actually the country and also traders were able to basically attract imports through other means, through other ports, for example, through Tripoli. But at the same time, luckily also the port infrastructure wasn't as much destroyed when it came to the cargo system as the container part. So these are really specifics we were looking at. And I want to basically conclude with ask me a question on that discussion when it comes to details on how prices evolve, what we think, and what are kind of also, especially the kind of context of the economic crisis, where we're looking at, which I must say is very, very grim. It looks very, very difficult. And as we've seen, I'm glad to hear from Robertson Agri that they're able to maintain their operation, but I want to learn from them, how do you manage that? How do you manage with an economy which is really suffering so much? And we've seen more and more people falling into poverty. Unfortunately, it is a very daring situation and where we need to act together. And I hope also through this meeting here, a younger technologically virtualized group who can bring new ideas and find solutions all together. And I'm here also to share my thoughts and also provide data if necessary. I want to stop here because I want to have a dialogue, I want to hear questions, and I want to hear your different opinions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. We will definitely delve deeper into all of these topics. Irene, if you can please tell us a bit about Chemonics Egypt and the We4f MENA that you are currently taking part of.
Everyone, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very, very much for the previous discussions. It was really fascinating. And I feel a huge sense of responsibility with this program to really do something in the region and in Lebanon. So I represent Chemonics Egypt. I'm the head of small and medium enterprises and the entrepreneurship at the company. It's a very long, never fit it in my business card. But Chemonics Egypt is an Egyptian and management consulting firm, but we operate in the MENA region, including in Tunisia and the UAE and Saudi Arabia and other countries. We have been operating since 1992, so we've been around for a while, and we're actually franchised to Chemonics International, which is based in Washington, DC. Over time, our clients have been governments, public sector companies, NGOs, also large private sector companies. About 5 years ago, we started working a lot more closely with and MSMEs. Chemonics Egypt's sectors are, we work in very sector-specific areas. Some of the sectors that we work in are water supply, wastewater treatment, waste management, in general, sustainable energy, energy efficiency, sustainable agriculture, and food production. I said 5 years ago, we started working a lot directly with startups and MSMEs, sectors that I just mentioned. In terms of We4f, I also just wanted to put some to the challenge that we're going to face in the next couple of years, building on what Soha said about, you know, the very number of that we have to feed 9 billion people by 2050. On top of that challenge, the global energy consumption is projected to grow by 50% in just 15 years, and the total water withdrawals for irrigation are increased by 10% in 2050. And an interesting fact, a ray of sunshine in this grim picture is that by supporting women in agriculture specifically, and I'm really glad to see that many of the participants on this call are women. If we had the same access to resources as their counterparts, we could increase agricultural yields by 30% and feed 150 more people just by including women in the agriculture process. So that was, that's the backdrop against the We4f program and why it exists. Just a quick brief on the program. So it's the We4f, which stands for the Water and Energy for Food program. It's a worldwide initiative that was founded by the German Ministry of Cooperation and Development, the BMZ, as well as the Swedish International Development Corporation, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Netherlands, US Agency for International Development, the USAID. So a group of 4 founding members. Basically, what the program aims to do is to enable production of more food with efficient usage of water and energy along the full value chain from farming all to the end user, to improve security, gender poverty reduction, and obviously in an environmentally friendly. We are a consortium of team members. As Zahi mentioned earlier, Chemonix is one of 4 entities. Berytech is leading the consortium. And basically we're responsible for the regional hub in the MENA region. It's Berytech, it's Chemonix Egypt, CWES, and IMWI from Egypt as well. And we're going to be responsible for supporting 50 innovators from the MENA region in the next 3 specifically in Algeria, Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, Morocco, territories, Tunisia, Sudan, and Yemen. And the very exciting news is in these 3 years, the program actually anticipates dispersing about 4.5 million USD, which is a huge amount. And this will be awarded in terms of technical assistance and also direct cash grants. We're expecting that about half of the we're going to support are going to receive between $1,000 US dollars and $1,000 US maximum, depending of the company. And we're also going to provide technical assistance, investment facilitation, access to markets, etc., as a non-financial support package companies that we work with. So we actually the call 2 days ago, which is I think November 3rd, and the call is on December 15. So I'm on having as many innovators on this possible to apply. Ask us any of your questions by November by email. And I'm really looking forward to reading the applications and to hearing your questions on anything else you want to know about the program, including the selection criteria. Thank you, Zahi.
Thank you. I will kick off the discussion by a question raised mainly to Simon and Naila. So tell us a bit, we're starting with Simon, about the impact in whatever data that that the World Food Program currently has, the impact about Beirut blast and all the disruptions of the currency exchange, and tell us what is your perspective about the opportunities for collaboration between WFP or other international organizations and the private sector.
Thank you. I think this is a fantastic question. I will answer it in 2 ways. One is just explain what data we collect and how we use it, and where I see then with that where the challenges are and where I see where we need more firepower, new ideas on how to go about it. So right now, and maybe you might have recalled in the very first session with Malak, my colleague, who also made a short progress statement on the challenges we face in Lebanon when it comes to data in general. It's a small country, but data in itself is not as prominent or updated as we wish. And data at the end is kind of the core to take as much as we can objective decisions. So whenever it comes to data, whatever all of you who are listening now can enable Lebanon, but also for the entire region to have updated data in a systematic manner, make it accessible. With that already, you make a big difference and everybody can build on that. The private sector or the public sector, NGOs or the government. Like it seems very crude or simple as a statement, but yes, this is already a lot where you can do. And also, as Irene said, like when we look at it from a gender perspective, disaggregating information, all of that, like from a gender perspective, looking to that, if you do look to that already when you collect data, you will make a huge difference. But now coming to the 2 points when it comes to food availability markets, we basically collect like 3 dimensions: price information, availability information, and one very key link is actually the exchange rate, currently since mid-October. All of that, we then basically map it out, compare to look at basically in a time series how things evolve national-wise, but also geographically. So key statements are, we all know inflation has hit the country very hard, and it has increased tremendously over the course with fluctuations. The fluctuations obviously are all linked to the exchange rate, how it has evolved on a daily basis. I'm sure for all of those who are in Lebanon, you always look at the informal exchange rate, also for your individual life. So even these tools, I think for those who are listening, is a way also to expand this kind of approach of maybe even collecting price information more daily wherever you are, and kind of do crowdsourcing of price information so you can share it with, again, with other like family, whoever, to understand where kind of their price differentials if you have not the resources to or manage basically your budgets. I think a lot of unfortunate people have lost of their income, lost their salaries, have no job. So they really need to be very strategic on how they spend their money. So maybe you can make a difference by redeveloping a new application to crowdsource price information. So that's one part. And when it comes to the aspect of food stocks and availability, we here rely a lot on the contracted shops we're working with. And here we ask them really on a weekly basis how you perceive the situation, but also give us numbers how the situation has evolved. So maybe the good news is here, until now, while the situation is extremely difficult, food availability somehow has slightly decreased. Food is available in the country. Even stocks are there. But the issue is that, as we all know, Lebanon is an import-dependent country. But even also to import, you need to have the resources to bring the money in. And here you have 2 challenges on 2 sides. One is internally, the money is blocked because of financial controls at your own bank account, but also for company. That limits the margin of maneuver to basically be able to bring in necessary import. And that could change even further if basically that money is not being released. So the availability situation can swap rather quickly. So we need to be very, very vigilant, as we say in French, like be alert. The situation, economically speaking, is kind of a suffocation of an economy, and things can already a disaster. I think it's really, really terrible from a poverty perspective, but it can easily even further deteriorate when we look at food security. We see that people are, and that's now the 3rd dimension of information. We want to understand how we as individuals actually cope with the stress situation. So we do ask regularly Lebanese, but also Syrians, whoever lives in Lebanon, how do you deal with that? So what is your sources of income? What is your sources of food? But also, where do you buy? So all of that information shows us already now that people are turning towards food commodities which are cheaper. Food commodities which are subsidized, we've heard about it, like cheaper foods, and therefore because they need to manage their smaller budgets. But what does it also entail? To a certain degree, they're also moving to commodities which are nutritiously potentially not as good, and therefore there is also like the lag of potentially have malnutrition problems coming up because you basically decrease the quality of diet you're actually taking, and you're reducing even your portion size. So why I'm raising that is like we not only want to understand like what is food availability per se in quantities, but we need to understand what it means from a food security perspective at the individual or the household level. So this is the data we collect, we analyze, share and take decisions as an organization, but also share with partners, as we've done in many other countries, as in Lebanon. So use this data, which is available, the price data, and again, I will share the links, read the reports.
Yes, so we had one of the questions is about how can third parties leverage the World Food Program data?
I mean,
so we have this question popping up.
I think first use it, download it, and work with it, and raise questions and come back to me. I think this is a very first step. I think you need to see, maybe you have ideas. I don't have white hair, I'm an old man, but you might have the new ideas on how to use and leverage it. So I'm gonna give you the links, use it, download, and work with that. And then also raise questions and walk with it. This is what I can just already offer right now. And I want to conclude again with my initial thought. A lot is about updated data. It's about a coherent way of collecting information. Everything which brings coherence and structure in a current situation, which is extremely volatile, allows us, made the private sector, like to take decisions in a more coherent manner. If you can bring in that stability and coherence in data, which is necessary from a food security perspective, this is where you can make already a difference now, and I think in a rather swift way. So I stop here right now.
Thank you. So building on your answer, Naila, what are your impressions and what are your lessons from working and leading on collaborations between a private institution, which is Robinson Agri, and either international donors or government entities? What advice could you give to entrepreneurs who are either starting their own tech-oriented business or for agri-food SMEs that are already in the market and want to grow their businesses?
Yes. So first, let's talk a little bit about the main issue that we are facing. So as we are already talking, the dollar rate is affecting all our work, let's say, all the activities, because we are relying on the import. So all the materials we are using, they are all affected, they are all related to the dollar rate. So if you can see it, all the growers, the medium one, the small one, and the big ones are all affected. So the big one, we see that they are planting less. The medium one also, the small one, they even cannot continue to plant, let's say. So what we try to do and what we are seeing currently, so through the NGOs we are working with, we are trying to help each grower, let's say, to continue, because we believe that if we need to secure the food supply at the end, you need to start since the beginning. You need to plant. You need to have growers that are still planting in order to have available food for the population, let's say. Because we are in Lebanon, we are let's say a population that is consuming vegetables. We are highly consuming vegetables, and in our dietary, let's say. So along with the NGOs, we are helping the majority of the growers, let's say, they are selected in all the areas because the NGOs are operating all over Lebanon, so they have specific data, and we are supplying them specific data also about our customers, the persons we know that are in need, that need help, let's say. We are trying to advise, let's say, our growers what to grow, which type of crop to keep on growing. Let's say if we see that we have a lot of tomato plantation, we shift to a bit more to cucumber or to pepper or to all the crops, let's say, in order to have the diversity and to ensure that at the end they will be able to sell their products and not in order to be more feasible, the projects to be more feasible, let's say. And this is what we are doing with the NGOs, let's say, the non-governmental organizations. With the government, we are trying to have more and more of the products like supported, because in order to reduce the effect of the dollar rate at the black market, because as you already know, all the money is blocked, so we cannot use it. We need to import the product. We will have to supply cash to be paid on cash basis. So this is it's our main nightmare, let's say. So that's why we took the decision at Robinson Agri to do the priority for the nursery, let's say, because we believe that we need to start in a good way. So if you start with a good plan, then you will ensure like more than 30 to 40% of your crop will be good, let's say. And we are working closely with the growers to advise them what to spray, what to add as fertilizers, to minimize it, let's say, to the maximum, in order to be more efficient, in order to be able to keep on going. It's a survival mode. We are collaborating with each other in order to overcome this crisis. So, it's our only solution, let's say.
Yes, it's our only way to the other end of the tunnel, and hopefully we will see the light soon. And I want to salute you, and throughout Robertson Agri, I want to salute all the local businesses in Lebanon that are surviving in extraordinary difficult circumstances. So to move more to a regional perspective, Irene, please tell us a bit about every aspect of WE4F, and given what you are planning to do in WE4F, what are the challenges that you have already perceived in North Africa mainly, and other places where Chemonix previously has operations?
Exactly, that's a handful of questions.
Yes, so to sum it up in one question, what are the challenges that you have already detected in North Africa and in some Arab countries, and how do they relate to WE4F and to the topic of our session?
Okay, so first of all, one of the main challenges is exactly what Simon mentioned, of accessibility and quality of data. That I think is a common challenge across the MENA region. We haven't done empirical in all 10 countries for the WE4F program, but at least in the countries that we've been operating in, this is, I would say, one of the top 3 challenges: access to data, access to market data, and updating of this market data. Because without access to, it's very difficult for, at least, in my domain, for startups, small, medium, and even policymakers to make any kinds of on the markets, or to even a feasibility study, or to even assess the business opportunity without having the data to be able to calculate their market sizes, or the data to be able to calculate their the sensitivity to price changes and that kind of thing. So I'm completely seconding what Simon said. This is something that we're studying, not just in Lebanon, not just in Egypt, but across the region. So I have a list of 20 challenges. Tell me where to stop. But
what are the common themes, the common denominator? If you can group them to 4 or 5 baskets, what could these baskets have a title?
Definitely access to data is the first and one baskets. Another challenge from the perspective, it's actually tied to access to data from the perspective of small and medium businesses. Naila can correct me, but another challenge that we see, a lot of these companies are founded and run by people who are very, very passionate about products and about certain technologies, but they're not necessarily very strong or in developing sustainable business models. They become very, we've seen across the region as well, is that entrepreneurs are passionate about the technology, very technology driven, but less about the business model and growing within that market. And I would like to say that this tied to the first challenge, which is lack of access to data, as one of the main challenges. Another challenge I would say is more related to the infrastructure. So the poorly developed supply chains, or income supply chains, or supply chains that are dominant by very large parties. The lack of distribution networks, for example. I would maybe lack of equal awareness about the different services that companies could leverage. Another bucket I would say is, because it's very easy for companies to say that we don't have access to finance, but I would say it's the lack of proper financing that's this size of companies. And I'm talking from a very startup and MSME perspective, and correct me if this is inaccurate, but what we've seen is that either the business do not have the right mechanisms in place to be able to be financially sustainable, or there isn't enough catered and fine-tuned financial products in the market to be able to cater to these businesses with their collaterals and not treating them like they're large that have enough collateral. At the same time, again, information and data to be able to make decisions and to be able to make financial projections, and under the umbrella of finance, also having the financing to fund the end users, so like the farmers or suppliers or the equipment, whoever is the end user of this business. That is also lacking very much because it's difficult for finance to understand their credit worthiness of these end users, and maybe too high, etc. There are some of the buckets. Other than that, I think things are quite intangible, and I think many of us would agree. Things like the lack of trust between the different parties in the market, the maybe cultural norms, imbalanced power between the different entities in ecosystem, etc. I think that's maybe 4 or 5 buckets that I see cross-cuttingly in the MENA region. We4f, it's difficult to resolve all these problems, but in terms of access to data, we a set of knowledge products that we're going to share publicly and hopefully leverage actually what Simon was doing. I think the information about food prices and real changes, etc., is crucial for policymakers, companies to understand. So we're going to leverage this kind of data. In terms of access to finance, we're working on products for Egypt and Lebanon to support end user financing, and we're also going to be connecting and businesses to different financing entities that suit them of development that they're in. In terms of infrastructure, we're not unfortunately doing enough in this program. It's a bit out of scope, but one of the main things that we're providing companies, other than the technical assistance, and I think that's really crucial. It doesn't necessarily directly solve any of these problems, but it equips the companies to be able to handle or to mitigate these kinds of challenges. So some of the offerings we have is, for example, again, it's very specific to the needs of the companies requirements, but for example, we're going to provide technical assistance to be able to help them set up financial systems or to prepare them for equity or debt investments, for example. Help in strategic planning and business modeling and understanding risk and how to mitigate this risk, for example. So each company that we work with is going to have about 1 to 3 heavily involved technical assistants with different service providers depending on the needs. So I think this is, we're going to pass on all the tools and knowledge we can to help the businesses mitigate or go through these really tough times. That's even more valuable than the fund point. I hope that covers everything you had in mind.
What I like the most about your approach as We4f, that you do not only have some sort of financing or monitoring support, you have the business consulting arm that would guide the businesses to enlarge their operations. So for all of you with us today, you basically have no excuse. If you already have a business and you are going to grow it, you have We4f and you have Code to reach out to. If you are a one-entrepreneur or you are planning to start your innovative business, you have the business idea, you can reach out to us. You can apply to Agri-Tech Batch 4, the fourth acceleration batch that will last 11 months till the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022, where you will receive support of up to $50,000 in cash, and you have basically the equivalent of an MBA, but it is more startup tech and entrepreneurship oriented throughout those 11 months, where you will go from an idea to a fully mature business that is selling products and talking with investors. So to pick up another important issue that Irene has raised is the ability of end user to purchase the items and the financing for end users. Simon, if you can tell us a bit about how did the let's say blockage in the banking system in Lebanon and the inability to withdraw funds affected the marginalized and the poor sectors of our society?
Thank you very much. So with this question, I will be able to give a bit more background on the work we actually do specifically now to address food insecurity. So the challenge with in Lebanon is rather simple. It's about providing assistance to people to be able to access food. So what happened over this last year specifically is that food access has deteriorated. We all lived it ourselves. Why? On one hand, prices went up, inflation. And at the same time, people lost their incomes or their jobs. So they didn't have the means to buy. So the assistance specifically is addressed to basically bridge that gap by providing financial support. But while we in some countries, and now I'm referring a bit to my background, like having worked in Western Africa, for example, where seasonality plays, for example, a role in prices going up during the lean season and prices going down during the harvest period. What we've seen now here in Lebanon specifically is an economic crisis, a crisis which was basically triggered by the informal exchange rate, and therefore what we had as a challenge as an organization was how do we adjust the transfer value giving to individuals to allow them to actually access the respective food basket. So how did we basically adjust the transfer value? And then I'm basically reusing my argument from before, which Irene also underlined again, is why data is so important here again. So because we were able, through our contracted shops, to track prices, we were able to regularly update the transfer value, also give recommendations to partners and the government saying, look, the food basket was 40,000 Lebanese pound. Today, we have actually that aid basket or food basket is above 100,000 Lebanese pound. So we needed to adjust that, and we were able to do that because we have the data. But at the same time, what I want to demonstrate with that is how difficult the situation is for everyone, because the goods which are imported are becoming very, very expensive within Lebanon. And that goes for Syrians and for Lebanese the same. Maybe one important nuance is what we've seen now just recently with the latest data we've collected for the Syrians is really that those living in poverty, that number has increased tremendously. It has almost doubled compared to last year. But what I want to say with that is that also on the Lebanese side, unfortunately, we see also the deterrent situation, and it is growing and growing. It has been at the beginning more buffered because people still had some savings. They were able to kind of cope in there. But as we've seen, as a private sector is suffering from the bank restriction, individuals have the same issues. And right now, we have to work very hard, and I want to be positive, but I'm also very concerned. And we're entering the winter period. Things will be potentially become more dire for those who don't have the means to have a proper housing. We also have, and that's another important dimension for the private sector, but also for each individual, is the whole topic around the subsidies of the essential goods, not only food, but it's also about medicine, it's about fuel. What is happening there? We don't know, and we hear that there might be a removal of subsidies. So here again, because we have the data on price, we were able to model, and these are back on the envelopes calculation, but prices might increase by a few 100% again. So we have to see what that means for a country which is currently already in a very difficult situation. And I'm worried about that, but at the same time, I think there is always hope, and we have to work together and by analyzing, by being together and understanding and supporting each other. This is where I hope we're gonna go together through a very difficult rough period. But at the end there has to be light at the tunnel, and we'll get there. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, there's a famous quote by Jim Rohn that says something along the line that the shortest history lesson is this sentence: opportunity mixed with difficulty. Whenever we are in our lives, there's always an opportunity hidden within all these difficulties and these unprecedented times that we are facing, and there's always a space and a path for people to create for-profit businesses that create a net positive impact on their local communities and on their regional nations. Within this scope, we have introduced so many programs, be it Quote, be it We4f, be it Agri-Tech, that you all could benefit from depending on where you are in your business journey. Please join us. You already have all the links in the chats. And now I want to conclude with a closing note from each of our panelists, starting with Naila.
First, I would like to thank you for inviting me for this participate in this meeting. It's really interesting. It's something that we need to, let's say, to all work together on it to solve it. It's not a simple issue we are discussing, but it's a matter of food availability, which should be made possible for everybody, and that we need, let's say, we need to gather, to collaborate all together in order to be able to end up, let's say, to see the end of this tunnel, as we are mentioning. So the efforts, all the efforts are needed, let's say, from all sides, from the governmental side, from the NGOs, from the private sector. We need to stick together, to work closely together, let's say, in order to overcome all the problems the soonest. Hope it will be soon. It will not last very long. So that's it. So hopefully we can cooperate all together in a better way in order to help each other.
Definitely, it will be a collective effort to pull up from the very low state that we are currently in. Second, we have Irene.
So I'm very concerned, as Simon is, about the next 50 years, actually, not just the next year. And this is what keeps me up at night. I've seen in my last maybe about 10 years working with startups, and I'm very hopeful because I've seen such innovators and business owners can really capture the most difficult challenges. I mean, we've all been spring. I've seen how the true renaissance after the Egyptian revolution, after, you know, I don't want to get political or anything. I've seen firsthand how companies and small businesses, even though there was, you know, a fluctuation after the revolution, even though there was high employment, there were power cuts, we couldn't import natural gas to keep the but I've also seen how these innovators really stepped these dire challenges even faster than the large companies and the governments. And I've seen how they've opened homes, and I've seen how they fed people firsthand. And I really believe in the power of entrepreneurship for that very reason. So I mean, as tough, you know, the problem sounds so unreachable and it sounds so scary and dire, but I really encourage everybody to try to channel this and this anger in really paving the path forward in terms of starting new businesses and realizing these business opportunities. And I really commend Naila for all the work they're doing and for really building this resilience. And I really hope that, you know, there are more companies that pave the way for others as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Any last words?
It's hard to find the final words. I think there's still a lot of work ahead of us, and we now, after 1 year of shocks the country went through, starting from the hope, which was raised in October, changes, the economic crisis, the change of government, COVID-19, a little bit of glimpse, and then the blast in August, which was also shocking, and now going on to this winter month. My words are in the sense of we need to stick together. We need to communicate and work on the so-called data while we're here also together, purely also, and to keep using that, because what is very important also in such an environment is to take decisions which are at least founded within a group like we consider like as facts, and build upon that. That's very important. Also to allow us to then also set the priorities right, because there are so many different like loose ends we need to bring together. And one thing is, I think, is really that the elements are there also in Lebanon to secure and maintain like a dignified life for many people. But we have to work together on that and ensure that things don't basically derail. And food security, unfortunately, is deteriorating in the country for Lebanese and Syrian, as I stated. Definitely the situation for Syrian is extremely worrying. And unfortunately, we see a similar progression on the Lebanese side. So it's about acting as quickly as possible. I think the structures are there, the country in itself and its setup and what it went through is enabled to cushion that. But we have to work all together on that and pull in the same directions. And be as objective as possible on that. And from my end, as my work as WFP, I'm here to answer questions. You can reach out to me, access the data which is available at WFP. So don't hesitate, because at the end it's also about sharing and learning from each other. And I think there is so much will, and I'm here. I'm glad to be part of that discussion. And I'm here in Beirut, so reach out. But also stay safe, because maybe as a kind of a cliffhanger, yes, COVID-19 is tricky, is on us, and we still far from having found the solution. So also be safe as individuals, keep your distance, keep your mask, but keep that in mind when we do our work, because that's unfortunately also a variable in this on the global level, which is still we need to keep our breath and get through it, and hopefully in a few months we get out of that altogether. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. We are honored to have you with us tonight as well. And as you have mentioned, it's very important to have collaboration and have many entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial endeavors across the agri-food chain from farm to fork in order to pick up pace and address all these challenges. Thank you for being with us. I will last but not least conclude with Zaha.
Thank you, Zahid. Thank you for the panelists. I would like to conclude that if we want to change the future, we have to start now, not even tomorrow. As you mentioned, the call for application for Agri-Tech Batch 4 is open, and soon the call for application for Agri-Tech Batch 4 or Hackathon 2020 also will be open. We are preparing a list of very exciting challenges that we are tackling from all our panels, connections, and discussions in the whole country to get back to you with the real challenges that needs solutions immediately. So join us, apply, and help us in building this better future.
Thank you, Soha. For all our attendees, please keep an eye on our social media. You will receive soon the announcements and the links to register for our one-of-a-kind hackathon. I want to thank each and every one of our panelists, and I want to wish you all a good evening. Bye-bye.